girl Kiki, and this is a Damn Shame podcast. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. It's Friday. It's Friday. It's Friday. I love Fridays. It's Podcast Friday. Let me tell you, tonight you have a real treat, and we have a real treat in store. I'm just gonna get right into our guest this evening. Our special guest tonight, he has, and I'm sure you all have seen the promos because I've been so excited, like super excited. Like, yo, I got somebody special on the show tonight. He has been featured in the Black Enterprise magazine. He's done 2 episodes of Housewives of Potomac. All right, ladies, I think he might be a little, single. I don't know. But listen, he is real estate mogul, as I like to call him, Marcel Humphrey. Welcome, Marcel. Thanks for doing Damn Shame.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the opportunity, Kiki. And I love your energy. I love your energy.
Thank you. So what do you feel, how you feel about what's happening with the general election?
Well, I really feel like it's definitely time for a change. It's going to be monumental seeing a African-American vice president. I think that's huge.
Dope. So dope.
It is. It is.
So listen, Marcel, I am super excited that you are here because we have so much to talk about. And as I was doing my research on this brother, y'all, it was just his story, his background, everything was so motivating to me. But let me just say this. Tonight's concoction is none other than the Equalizer. And it got a little splash of vodka and grenadine. And it's going to equalize this whole platform tonight, because I'm just like on 10. When we gonna get a president? Oh my gosh, we got Marcel Humphrey on the show. So yes, it's gonna equalize me, Kiki. Okay. So let me tell you this. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, share the live, tell a friend. We are up in here. What's up?
Yes,
so as I said, Marcel is a real estate mogul. And producer lady, I think I'm going to punt this off to you to get started for tonight, because we're just going to hop right in it. I don't want to waste no time. I have just been like on pins and needles waiting for this moment.
Understand what sparked your interest and motivated you to become the real estate investor that you are today? How'd you get here?
I would say a couple of things sparked my interest. I can go all the way back to the 80s when I was growing up in West Baltimore. My mom was a school teacher, and she loved what she did. And she would always talk about hitting the lottery. Every week she would play the lottery, her and her parents, my grandparents. And she would always say if she hit the lottery for $1 million, that she would buy this commercial property up the street from my house, about a block away from my home, which was really run down. It was in bad shape. It was vacant, parts of it, and they sold drugs like right on the corner of Bell and Garrison. So that was like her dream, her vision. And she said she would purchase that property. She would put an ice cream parlor in. She would renovate the apartments, lease the apartments, and put other minority-owned businesses in the on the first floor levels. It was a barbershop and there was a sub shop, and at one point it was a corner store, but that went out of business, I believe. But that never happened. She passed away in '93 to sarcoidosis, an immune disease and a respiratory disease. It attacks your respiratory system, your nervous system. Bernie Mac had passed away from that. But all I can remember being 8, 9 years old back then, I would say, you hit the lottery. I don't want to go to school anymore. I want to go to Disney World every day. I thought $1 million was a whole lot of money back then. It still is today. But, she planted those seeds of entrepreneurship. And then as my life went on and I got older, real estate has always been around me. I mean, it's been around all of you. We live in houses, whether you rent or your parents owned, your grandparents owned. You were always walking in and out of real estate our whole lives. So, just being around it kind of sparked my interest as well. My mom used to watch those do-it-yourself TV shows. Every time she had a chance to take us to an open house, she would take us to open houses in like Randallstown. I know that's where most of you guys are from, and Owens Mills, and then even the $1 million neighborhoods. She would
Mm-hmm.
take us like at 8, 9, 10 years old. She was taking us into Guilford and Roland Park and Lutherville, multi-million-dollar neighborhoods that, on her $40,000-$50,000 salary, she knew she couldn't afford, but she was just planting seeds like, hey, it's bigger things in life. She always told us, to be better than her. Our parents
Yeah.
always said,
Yeah.
don't be like us, be better than us.
Yeah.
And she was just planting seeds. And she passed when I was 12. My dad always instilled leadership. Don't ever be a follower, be a leader. He always said that. He always said that. And that kind of is ingrained in myself and my brother's psyches. And when I got to college, I was introduced to network marketing. I had started a few other businesses before that, but when I was introduced to network marketing, I actually was able to meet my first real estate mentor, who I recruited to become a part of my network marketing company, ACN. To this day, I love network marketing. I think it's a great concept, especially for someone that has no experience as an entrepreneur, because it gets you ready for rejection. It also grows you. You have to grow, and you really have to grow if you want to increase your income. I don't care if you're working a 9 to 5 or you own your own business. You have to grow as an individual, physically, spiritually, and financially. And when I say financially, as far as literacy, like there's a lot of things missing in the education system that really doesn't really set most of us up for success. So, it forced me to grow. When I was involved with that network marketing company, I had to study. I had to become a junkie to personal growth and development, and ended up meeting my first mentor. He showed me, to be quite honest, he showed me 2 checks, and I had never seen that type of money in my life. As far as someone that I know that was earning this type of money, he showed me a check written out to Land Rover. It was between $32,000 and $37,000. He was paying off his Range Rover 4.6. If you from that era,
That's
you
that back in the
understand.
day. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
this
a
is
big
early
deal. That was
2000s.
definitely a big deal.
This is
Mhm.
2000. This is like 2003, and he was like 32. He was
Wow.
32. I was like 20, and then he showed me a check for 127,000, and
Hmm.
I was like, "Hey, where
I'm
do I
in.
start? Where do I
Hmm.
start?" And
Hmm.
he wasn't recruiting me or anything. I was just like, "Man, I'll work for you for free."
Yeah.
So I worked for him in D.C., in the Washington D.C. Real estate market for 8 months. I was at Morgan State University. I was working part-time at the Social Security Administration, and I was also coaching high school basketball at Northern High School. They have renamed the school Reginald F. Lewis, who was a pioneer and one of my heroes from Baltimore, Reginald F. Lewis. But yeah, I was driving down to Beltsville, Maryland every day. We would drive to DC in the evening, and we would canvass certain neighborhoods. And within 8 months, I saw this guy make over $1 million, $1.3 million in 8 months. And
Yeah.
I was hooked on real estate ever
Yeah.
since. I was hooked
Yeah.
ever since.
So, you talked about meeting this mentor when you were in
Yes,
another line of business, right?
yes.
And what would you say was the key thing that he said that you needed to do to get started in the business, like in the industry? Like, what was your
Right.
first thing?
Well, understand this. During those 8 months, he did not pay me. I did not really. He didn't even really teach me what I'm doing today. His business, everybody, and that's a beautiful thing about real estate. There's so many different ways to make money, hundreds of ways to make money in the real estate industry, literally hundreds. Like one transaction really feeds about 25 families. So, Kiki, if you bought a house today, 25 people are going to make money off of that one transaction, or 25 people or more.
And let's
So
break that down. So you have the
yes,
lender,
you have yes,
you have the seller, right?
you got well, if it's a
The
mortgage broker,
Okay.
and then you have the lender, and you have the seller, you have the real estate agent on both sides of the transaction.
Yeah.
You have the appraisal.
Yeah.
You have the home
person.
inspection. Right.
Yeah.
Not to mention, if the home was renovated, all the general contractor.
Yeah.
Then the subcontractors.
And I wanted to break that down, just so that the damn shamers would understand that you might not want to get into necessarily the real estate, but you might want to be a contractor. There are so many facets in this industry that you can explore and really, be successful in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when I was out in DC, I was really knocking on doors. I was basically doing a lot of grunt work. I was knocking on doors to folks that were behind on their mortgage payments. So we targeted people that were in pre-foreclosure. That was his business model. And he would basically save them from getting a foreclosure on their credit report. So he was buying property anywhere between between 150 to 250, sometimes $300,000. And then he would put those properties back on the market in Washington, D.C. between 400,000 and 600,000. And he would put about 80 to 90,000 in each property. So you can see, the profit.
That was the numbers back then. Now the numbers here today.
Those same properties in DC are going for like $1 million. We were in Capitol Hill, and he had the deciding factor was he told me, he said, Marcel, you can either come and work for me in DC. I'm like 23, 24 at that time. And he said, or you can just start your own company in Baltimore. And I was really uncomfortable going into a city like DC, not knowing DC isn't what it is today. It was still a lot of crime back in the early 2000s. So I'm a inner city guy from Baltimore. I'm not going to go in just any neighborhood, if I don't know somebody there. That was my mindset back then, in my early 20s. But, you mature, and, I wish I would have spent more time in DC because, the properties appreciated through the Great Recession. They appreciate it. And that's pretty much most metro cities across the country, but DC's property values shot through the roof. They shot through the roof. Like it's very competitive. It's probably in the top, not probably, it's in the top 5 markets in the United States right now. Most expensive.
Wow. Well, let me jump in real quick just to give a shout out to some of our damn shamers. Tyrone Bryant, he's here from DC.
Tyrone.
Christian Bryant, she's saying good evening, and Wilhelmina Brewer, she's checking in. Can't wait to get started. Can't wait to hear more about the real estate business. So just want to give a shout out to our damn shamers. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and share the live. Share this information. Listen, it's not always that we get to have someone who is as knowledgeable as he is in a platform and it be free. Okay. Then look, the next one you might have to pay a little fee for. You understand what I'm saying?
So I want to jump into another question about what all falls under the real estate umbrella. A lot of people, the first and probably only thing they think about is like flipping houses, but like there's so many other different ways to get in the business under real estate that's not just about flipping houses. Can we talk a little bit about that?
That's a damn shame.
That is a damn shame.
Nah, I'm joking.
That's just my child. Nobody's hurt over here. Just
I'm glad to hear. Okay, I'm like,
kids don't understand. We're live. Sorry about that.
Nah, that's cool. That's cool. That's what makes this real. So
that's right.
So that's a really good question, though. There's so many different ways. Before I met my mentor, didn't you all go to Morgan? Did some of you go to Morgan?
Okay, so finest Delaware State University.
Oh, okay.
I
got a couple of.
We have quite a few friends that went to.
Yeah. Shout out to Morgan.
Shout out to Morgan.
Shout out to Delaware State too.
We beat y'all every homecoming, but it's all good.
I had a few friends at Delaware State. Actually, two of my I used to play ball growing up, and Eric Skeeters and Keith Goody are basketball coaches up there, and Ivan Griffin I went to high school with. He played basketball at Delaware State. So shout out to Delaware State. So when I was at Morgan, we had this social hangout spot called the Bridge, and everything went down on the bridge.
Been on the bridge.
A lot of us.
I've been on the bridge.
Been on the bridge.
Yeah, we done been on the bridge.
Been on the bridge.
A lot of people from other schools would just show up. Towson, Loyola, people from all over
the bridge
would hang out on the bridge. So that's where I discovered this niche called tax lien investing. And this is a niche strategy that you can use all over the country. Some states are tax deed states. Some states are tax sale certificate states. Maryland happens to be a tax sale certificate state. Now, across the country, you can experience returns anywhere from 12% all the way up to 36%. Like California goes up to 36%. These are just returns on your money. Now, if you know what you're doing, this can be a risk-free investment, like 100% guaranteed, because you're purchasing a government-backed certificate. So when I buy tax sale certificates, I buy them from Baltimore City. And if I follow all the steps, I'm guaranteed a return of up to 18% on my money that I invest, plus legal fees. So if my legal fees are around $3,500, the person who owns that property has to pay 18% on my legal fees and what I paid to pay off their tax lien. That's if it gets to that point where I'm starting the foreclosure process. So in a nutshell, I actually purchased my first property with my my financial aid refund check. And I had a mindset shift early on. When I mentioned earlier, I was introduced to some other businesses. You probably all have heard of Amway, Quick Start.
Yep.
Okay, so at 18, 19, I was introduced to Amway, Quick Start. And my mentor, he put a book in my hand called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I employ everybody. If you're thinking about getting involved in real estate, you definitely want to start reading. Like a lot of people forget, they forget about working out their brain. Like your mind is the strongest muscle you have. And a lot of people forget to work that out. So, we should always exercise our brains, and whether it's you listening to an audio. I know everybody's not readers, but understand readers are leaders.
So that's why Kiki falls asleep now. So I mean,
So audio.
You need the audio.
You definitely have to read. You definitely have to read, especially if you're getting into real estate, because you got to read contracts. You have to read contracts, and then every market is different. So in the tax sale world, you have to understand Baltimore City's rules and procedures are different than Baltimore County. Baltimore County is going to be different than Prince George's. Maryland has like 24 cities or 24 counties, I believe. So every municipality runs their tax sales differently. Okay.
And because we have Dame Seamus from the East Coast to the West Coast, I'm sure that the same concept applies across the United States.
The same concept, absolutely. And you can learn about the different rules and how to acquire these properties through your state websites. Like if you just Google Maryland tax sale process or California tax deed process, the state websites are going to come up with every step that you have to take to acquire these certificates and these deeds. So that first property I paid $850 for. Like I said, I had a mindset shift. Instead of taking my refund check and splurging it, like I did in my early college years, I said, I'm going to bet on myself and I'm going to invest in my future. And I ended up purchasing 2 certificates the one owner redeemed, the second owner did not redeem, and I foreclosed on the property. I ended up owning this property free and clear on East 26th Street in East Baltimore, and I sold that property for $25,000. I had made more money on one deal than I did working a whole year at my part-time government job, and that was like a game changer. And then right around that time, I had bumped into my first mentor in Washington, D.C. And then I just stuck with it ever since. So you have tax sale investing, then you have wholesaling. That's really, you can virtually do that with no money out of pocket, where you're controlling a property for a certain amount of time. You're adding value to the property depending on how you market it and the price that you are controlling the property for. And then you can sell that for a fee of up to, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And from there, I call this the real estate investing success ladder, just like the corporate ladder. However, in the entrepreneurial world, there's no ceiling to how much you can make. And that's the beautiful thing about real estate is you never know what the next deal is going to yield you. I mean, you could do a deal, Kiki, and you may make only $3,500, but then you could do a deal in 2 months and you make $35,000.
Yeah.
So there's no cap. The only competition is going to be yourself. So from wholesaling, you're probably, putting some money away. You could do maybe 5 to 10 deals a year. That next year, hey, I want to buy and renovate a house. So
what's the concept for wholesaling? What's the concept
wholesaling?
For wholesaling?
So the concept is simple. It's finding a distressed property. So have you seen a vacant house in your neighborhood or a shabby looking house in the last, 3 to 6 months? Have you seen any of that? Okay,
not
so
in my neighborhood, but I seen them.
Every neighborhood has them. I don't care. Every neighborhood. I don't care if it's a $1 million neighborhood or a low income neighborhood. You can find a house that has some maintenance issues.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just one scenario, right? You find a house with some maintenance issues. It could be the lawn isn't taken care of. It could be the windows are broken. It could be that, Miss Johnson, who recently moved into assisted living, her house is now vacant. This could be a distressed situation. Like the owner could be going through some type of financial hardship. You never know the case, or someone could have inherited a unwanted house. We've purchased several properties since 2004 from people that have moved out of the Baltimore market, and their parents owned a house here. Their parents passed away, and now they're down in North Carolina. They're responsible for the taxes, the upkeep, and it's become a nuisance to that family. So we've been able to purchase those types of properties. So basically, finding a unwanted property or a property that someone needs to sell, negotiating a price, a fair price for the property, and then once you negotiate a price, a fair price, you actually write up a contract, you put down a deposit, and then you assign your equitable interest using what's called an assignment agreement. You assign your interest, and there are different types of assignment agreements that you can use. But you use this one-page agreement, and let's just say Nightlife wanted to buy the property. She's going to pay my company a fee to purchase that property. So you're basically playing the middleman. Did that make sense? So to keep it simple, you find a house for $10,000, it's worth $100,000. You sell a property to Nightlife for $20,000. You tell her, Nightlife, I got a house for $20,000, it's worth $100,000. You need to put $10,000 in repairs in the property. She's looking at it as a $30,000 investment. That's worth $100,000. Who would not do that deal?
Right.
She's got $70,000 of equity. So when we all go to settlement, when we go to settlement, the owner gets their $10,000. Kiki, you make $10,000, and Nightlife gets a property with $70,000 of equity. Everybody
wins. Yeah.
Everybody wins.
Yeah. I like that.
So when everybody wins, that's how you create success, creating
Yeah.
win-win situations.
And I hear a lot of people talking about wholesaling. So, and I never really
Yes.
understood it, but then that breaks it down for me. Okay, I get it. But
I got another
listen,
quick question here.
go ahead, pretty lady.
And that Kiki, it's your show. You got something?
Nope, come on.
All right. You brought up a really good point, and I think no matter what piece of real estate we're talking about, the deal has to make sense.
Yes.
So how do you determine when the deal makes sense? It seems like that would be like a strategy or something behind that. Can we talk about that?
Absolutely. No, people lie, numbers never do. Okay? Numbers never lie. So one thing I tell people, especially that are just getting started, is that, these properties, they don't love you back. Like, you may love your home, but your house doesn't love you, has no emotion. So you have to take the emotions out of the business when you're involved in a business transaction. It's all about the numbers. If the numbers don't make sense and you're emotionally attached because the house reminds you of the house you grew up in, there's a chance you can lose some money. And when you make emotional decisions in business, nine times out of 10, if those numbers aren't right, you're going to get hurt financially. So keep that out of the scenario and always just focus on the numbers. So when I look at a deal, there's several ways I look at a deal. If I'm looking at a deal to wholesale, there's a certain way I'm looking at the deal. If I look at a deal to buy, fix, and sell on the retail market, there's a certain way I'm looking at the deal. If I'm looking at a deal to buy and hold it long term, there's a whole nother way I'm looking at the deal. Or if I'm looking at it just to buy and hold, just to wait for like a neighborhood to change, I'm looking at it a certain way. So with the whole, and same thing with tax sale. I mentioned tax sale certificates earlier and tax deeds. Just because you can buy a property or you believe you can buy a property for pennies on the dollar doesn't mean that it's going to make sense once you become the owner. So tax sale certificates you can purchase anywhere from a few $100s all the way up to a couple $100,000. But you better know your values. And every niche, you have to know your numbers. So if you're wholesaling a property like that property we just did the demonstration with, that's worth 100,000. Well, that's called the after repaired value. And for the folks watching this, you may want to write that down. When you're evaluating a deal, you want to find out what the after repair value is on that property. Meaning, after Nightlife buys that property for 20,000, after she fixes it up, what is it going to be worth? So we have to provide Nightlife with comparable sales, and you can get comparable sales from different websites. Zillow.com. You have HomeSnap, which is an app that you can download to your phone for free. And there's a website I've been using for years called uspropertysearch.com, where that gives you access to all of the data nationwide, and they're tied directly to the multiple listing service. So you do your due diligence, you look at what the comps are in that area for houses that are comparable to the house that you're thinking about putting under contract. And then you work the deal from there. You look to see what investors. I'm going into some advanced training here.
We smart here. The Dan Chambers is smart.
Okay. So good. I just want everybody to stay with me here. So if I know the ARV is 100,000, I want to know exactly what investors are paying for these $100,000 homes. Because if I know their investors paying 30,000, then I know I could potentially sell this property for 30,000 because I've seen sales in that $30,000 range. So if I know this, and like you knew that, Kiki, on that deal, you know that you have to get it below 30 for you to make money.
Yeah.
So that's like the simplest way I can explain evaluating a deal wholesale wise.
But isn't there a threshold that you want to stay between? I think I heard you say 60% or 65% for the ARV.
Yeah, so everybody has their own business model. Some people are going to agree with this, some people aren't. and I'm willing to bet the people that aren't going to agree with this have only been in the business maybe 5 years. They're experiencing this booming market that we're in right now, but it's very dangerous if you're going to start purchasing property 70 to 80 cents on the dollar. That's very dangerous to start doing that, because anything can happen. If the economy tanks, next week, that means home prices are going to decline. And the reason I say this is because I look at what lenders are lending on a local level. So I'm talking about people in my market that are lending money on property, and most of them lend up to 65%, because they know when they lend their money, and when I say 65%, they'll lend up to $65,000 total for that $100,000 house, because they know if they have to foreclose on that property or take that property back, they're still in a good position to get their money out of the house. Does that make sense?
It does. So let's talk about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So as a wholesaler, you want to make sure you're getting your deals under 60 cents on the dollar. So you can sell them. A great wholesaler is going to sell their property at 65 cents on the dollar, because now they're ensuring the success of their client, who is a rehabber or buy and hold investor. Sometimes your buy and hold investors, these are folks that will pay a little more because the condition of the property and the simple fact that they're betting on long-term appreciation and monthly cash flow. So they'll pay sometimes up to 70, even 80 cents on the dollar, but they know their exit going into the deal. They've done it several times. They're good at what they do, and they can take that type of risk. But the more you pay for a property, the more risk you're taking on. So as a wholesaler, you want to get your deals as cheap as possible, 10 cents on the dollar, 30 cents on the dollar.
Okay, that was one
and
of the
sell
questions.
them.
Oops.
Yes.
That was one of the questions in in the chat was, do you use the MAO formula to run your numbers? That was from Tyrone Bryan. Thanks for chatting.
No, I don't use it. I don't use it's called the maximum allowable offer. I do not use that in my business. When I evaluate a deal, and the reason why I stopped using it is because everybody has their own model in doing business, and it's kind of hard to figure out repairs on a property if you're selling that property as a real estate wholesaler. A lot of people, you're hearing about wholesaling. Wholesaling has over 100,000 hashtags. When I entered the industry in 2002, very few people were talking about real estate wholesaling, and very few people were talking about real estate that looked like me. I would be at real estate meetings, and I would be one of 3 African Americans in the audience. But now, it's a more popular with the advent of the internet. Information is right at your fingertips, and a lot of people get hung up on the maximum allowable offer. But you have to understand, my contractor is not going to give me the same price that they're going to give you, or your contractor is going to give you. Okay, so everybody's expense is going to be different. Everybody's budget is going to be different. So what I like to do, I like to keep it simple. And the reason why I do this, and I'm going to review here, and I'm going to give you a backstory why I developed this. It's called the AIP. What I just went over is called the AIP. This is a strategy that I had to come up with during 2007, 2008, during the first housing crash, because literally when the housing market crashed, there weren't any retail sales happening. We literally had more foreclosures happening than people buying homes. So values were going down. However, right around 2008, like 2 to 4 months, there was like panic in the marketplace, similar to COVID. Like, remember, everybody was running to get toilet paper?
That's what I was just getting ready to say. Like, the way the economy is set up today, is it going to mirror what happened in 2008 with the housing market. I mean, we're in this pandemic. You know, everybody's scrambling. You see everybody's buying. I mean, the seller's market is great right now.
Yes.
But
I don't know. I mean, there's several indicators that show that we're heading in another direction, but I'm not a psychic. I can't look into the future. But if I was a betting man, I would say brace yourself. Really brace yourself. And when I say brace yourself, you know, you need to be investing smartly. You need to definitely create another stream of income. But in 2008, I saw some of the same things happening today, just from my playing field on the real estate home front, where I see people being over leveraged, becoming over leveraged. And when I say over leveraged, I mean, if you're on a seesaw, you know, and somebody jumps off, you know, you're going up in the air. Right. Okay. So I'm seeing investors, because I was once over leveraged.
So take us back to the API model. Is that how you came up with it?
AIP, yes. So I came up with, it stands for Average Investor Pays. So my student partners, the folks that I mentor, they were coming to me and they were saying, Marcel, we cannot come up with a maximum allowable offer anymore because there's no ARV. So what do we do? And I'm looking at all the data and I'm saying, wow, all these foreclosures are happening. There's no retail sales. However, they still want to wholesale these properties to investors. So I went back into the office, scratched my head for a few minutes, and I said, I got it. Let's just look at what investors are paying and buy the properties less than what they're paying. So they were buying them at the auctions. We bought less than what they were paying at the auction. They were buying them less. They were buying them, you know, off of the MLS through real estate agents. These were REO properties. We're making sure we're buying them less than what they're purchasing the REOs for. So it's just looking to see, to keep it really simple, because the maximum allowable offer can confuse you. If you don't know repairs, if you don't know holding costs, it's going to confuse you. To keep it simple, stupid, is just to look at what Nightlife is paid. If she paid $30,000 and she's an investor and she's rehabbing that house, you know you have to get the properties cheaper than what she paid for them to make a profit. It's that simple.
Simple. It's that simple.
And how do you find out? How do you find out how much they're paying? You use sites like the ones I gave earlier, uspropertysearch.com. You use those types of sites. They tell you exactly how much the cash sales are in cities and neighborhoods and zip codes all over the country.
So, producer lady, I know you have a comment, and for those Dame Chambers that are listening on YouTube Live, and they might be on Instagram as well, we will make sure that all of this information, these links, are posted on our site at Dame Shame Podcast. So be sure to follow our Instagram page, and you'll be able to get some of this information as well.
And that's with wholesaling. You're using the AIP when you're wholesaling. When you're rehabbing, you can use the maximum allowable offer. But for the folks that are just getting started that aren't rehabbing, and if you're rehabbing, you know how to evaluate a deal. Like and that's another thing. You should not get involved in a rehab project. This is just through my lens, my opinion. Some people take chances. If you don't have at least $20,000 to $30,000, and this is just specifically in the Baltimore marketplace, if you don't have that type of money in a bank account that is just like a rainy day account for just your real estate endeavor, you don't need to be playing in that arena yet, because stuff happens.
Yeah.
Stuff happens in this business. So, you know,
well, wait a minute. When we talk about, do you necessarily have to have your own capital? From what I'm understanding, we have lenders out here, hard lenders, and explain that concept.
That's definitely
people don't
great
necessarily
question.
have good credit now, you know, and the capital. Now she might can do some things for some pocket change and make the quick 30,000. You know, to be sitting there.
Well, I tell. You know, for the folks taking notes, you know, you definitely, and Kiki, you bring up some great points. You definitely want to be resourceful. Write that word down, being resourceful. So within our networks, within our
He
networks,
says
I'm pretty sure.
resourceful. I say
Yeah.
some small things for some pocket change.
Right. Small things with some pocket change. But
Some damn
20 to
shame.
30, 20 to 30,000 ain't small change for most folks. So you
Okay.
gotta be resourceful. Okay. So if you don't have 20 to 30,000, number one, you should not even be playing in the rehabbing arena unless you have a mentor that's gonna hold you by the hand and take you every step of the way. Because when you buy a house, specifically in Baltimore City, you have the permit process. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know, okay, if you're gonna gut a house out, oh, I need floor plans. Okay. You're gonna need to know how to submit your floor plans to the city through the permit process. You're gonna need to know that there's an inspection process that takes place. Okay. And when you're talking about lenders, hard money, you have hard money lenders, you have private lenders. Now, I'm not saying, you know, don't don't get started if you don't have 20 to 30 in the bank, but you need access to capital. So if you don't have
Yeah.
the money, hey, Nightlife may have 20 to 30,000 that she'll
Yeah,
lend you,
plenty of.
that she'll lend you because she believes in you and she know you got mentorship and she knows that you can execute well. She may lend you that money if needed. But
Uh-huh.
understand this, smart lenders, and I haven't seen any, even though, and this is how you know the market has changed. I haven't experienced this. None of my clients have experienced this. Lenders back in 03, 04, 05, they did what's called front the first draw. So when you borrow money from a bank, you have to put together a draw schedule, like an outline of
Mm-hmm.
the project.
Mm-hmm.
So say your first draw is you're going to do roof, new roof, you're going to do demolition, you're going to waterproof the basement, okay? You're going to put in new windows. Let's just say you budgeted for all of that $15,000. Back in early 2000s, lenders would actually, at settlement, they would cut you a check for your first draw. I haven't seen that since then. So lenders right now, they want to make sure you have skin in the game. So before they cut that $15,000 check, you have to get all of that done on the first draw.
Wow.
You
Okay.
see what I mean?
Okay.
So that's why I said you have to have 20 to 30, depending on the property. If you're in a
Mm-hmm.
high-end neighborhood, you're going to need 50 to 100. Like if you're playing ball in DC, if you're playing ball in Federal Hill, Canton, the prices are higher. The contractors know that. So they're going to charge you a little more, depending on who you're working with. So you need to be ready. Not to mention if a contractor goes bad. So one of the episodes of Housewives with the Potomac, Housewives in Potomac, Robin and her mom experienced a contractor who disappeared, and they were already into that project about $20,000. So if they budgeted a certain amount of money for that project with that contractor, is one thing about contractors, they hate coming behind other contractors. So they have to, they'll tear out the old contractor's work if it's not up to their standards, and then they're going to charge you. So that 20 to 30,000 that you have in that account specifically for rehabbing is if something happens, something goes wrong, you can absorb that loss. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. So you talked about your time on the Housewives of Potomac, and
Yeah.
that you mentored Robin, and you've mentored many other people across Maryland, and probably in some other areas as well. So
Yes.
I know that you mentor. There are a lot of women that are getting into this real estate market.
Yes.
With you being a very attractive man, very smart, knowledgeable, and all of that. How do you handle when one of your mentees tries to cross the line and do some small things for that pocket change?
For the pocket change. Well, I keep it business. I keep it business. I learned a valuable lesson early on in my network marketing days is to never mess with the money.
Mhm.
Okay? Because then the money can get funny.
And the money
And
gets funny.
I tell you one thing, women do extremely well. Most of my clients are 90% women,
Wow.
and they do extremely well. And they age anywhere from 25 all the way up to 65 years old. I've been mentoring and coaching people since 2007. And if you go on my website, marcelhumphrey.com, you'll see there are more women success stories than fellas. And I tell the fellas all the time, we got to get our stuff together.
You gotta get it together. Y'all gotta step
We got to
your
get
game
together.
up.
But it's good.
It's
And
damn shame.
I believe you all do well because, and another thing, the houses that our company has renovated and sold has been to mostly 95% mostly women, African-American women. You guys have it together. You have the jobs, you have the good credit, and you know what you want. On the investment side, I believe because I I deal and I teach my student partners, they deal direct with homeowner, direct with property owner. And when you're dealing directly, there's no middleman in between person. Kiki, you come off less what's the word, intimidating over the phone or in person. And it's easier for you to negotiate. Okay. So, look at what Joe Biden did.
Yeah.
His running mate is a
The black
African American woman.
Mhm.
Okay, is a woman. I believe that's how he won.
Yeah. Yeah. Me
Okay.
too. Mhm.
So, you all are phenomenal. I've seen it
Use
with my
this
own eyes.
term
Uh-huh.
failing forward.
Yes.
Explain that.
You said I talked about that?
Yeah, you used this term before in some of your talks.
Yeah.
About failing forward. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely.
This market is so scary, intimidating, whether you're male or
Well,
female.
it's a great time to be in real estate right now.
Okay.
You make a lot of money. If you find the right house, you make a lot of money. And I'm talking about fast. Like right now, and the thing is when the market crashes, hopefully it doesn't, but I mean, we've been on a great run for almost 13 years now. There's going to be a correction in the real estate market, in the stock market. There's definitely going to be correction. We just don't know when. I've given prediction that it's going to happen in 2021 at some point. I believe I may be misquoting here, but there's a moratorium of like 3 million people that are behind on their mortgage right now. So if Corona hits again, that's a devastating blow.
Yeah.
Devastating. So when foreclosures hit the market, it's going to slow down everything. Banks are going to hold back because if you remember COVID, all banks ceased lending. Yeah. As soon as COVID happened, as soon as everything was shut down, all banks ceased lending. And a bunch of real estate investors, we were on Zooms talking about what's next. Like, how are we going to prepare for this? What's going on? And then things got better. But if COVID hits again, it's going to devastate the banking world. But back to your point, failing forward, early on in my career, I did not take mentorship and real estate education serious. I learned through the School of Hard Knocks. And, I remember people telling me, like, you're either going to pay for it now or pay for it later. And I ended up, losing when the market crashed over $1 million between cash and real estate in my business. Yeah. But I didn't quit. I learned from those mistakes. And one of those mistakes was being over leveraged. So we were buying 5 to 7 houses at a time in 1 month. And, we were racing to get jobs done. And once the news cracked that the market is slowing up, we were left holding the bag. So, failing forward, in this business, you're going to fail. You need to be prepared mentally. Just know that real estate is a very forgivable business to be in. My first wholesale deal, it took 18 months to close my first wholesale deal. Okay. It wasn't a lot of people talking about it online. It wasn't any real books on the concept back then. And it wasn't a lot of people teaching it. So, I just stayed in the game. You got to have staying power. And that's with anything like with your podcast, Heck, you may have only 1,000 people watching, right? But in 5 years, that could be 50,000 people. But if you quit in the next
I
6 months,
you never
it ain't
know,
happening.
Yeah, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
You gotta just
So
keep going.
yes, you got to keep going, and it's a whole
And
lot of
keep
stories.
reinventing yourself. I'm sure
Absolutely.
you have to do that in the real estate investment market as well. Think of creative ways. Like you said, you started out with the MOA or whatever the terms were.
The maximum
And
allowable offer. Yes.
yeah. And then that didn't work. And then you came up with your concept, which was the AIP. And
Yes.
so, I know that even in this time with COVID, we all have had to learn how to pivot and make
Yeah.
more money for ourselves. How can we do it? And I just thought you coming on the show was so timely because, you could teach us or drop gems on, how to build ourselves and be more, I guess, knowledgeable of all the entities that goes into this real estate game that we could potentially get into.
Yes.
A producer lady, do you have one?
I just have a comment in the chat from Sharice. If you have a lot of equity in your home, should you pull it out to purchase another property?
It really depends on your experience level. If you're just starting out, I do not advise that you do that. You need to get a education. So I don't know if you can respond to them to see if they have any experience, because if you pull it out and you don't have a plan and you just go off a hunch or you go off of somebody telling you something, and if that person doesn't have a track record showing you, okay, this person took out 60,000 out of their house and they put down 20 on this property, they put 40,000 into it, and then they refinanced that property, and once they refinance, they paid back their equity line of credit or they paid off their house again. So if you have equity, if it's your primary residence, are you willing to lose that home? That's why I said this. Real estate doesn't love you, okay? These houses don't love you. So if you pull out that equity out of your house, you understand you're taking a risk. It could be a calculated risk, but you're taking a risk. And the risk is you pull out that equity. So one thing I learned early on from one of my early mentors, a wise man, Will
But wait a
Martin,
minute,
he
before you
said,
go into that concept,
yes,
when you pull out
yes,
the equity of a
yes,
house that, say
that you own.
you got 100,000 in the house,
Yeah.
$100,000 worth of equity. The
Mm-hmm.
house is, you probably have 100, well, the houses in this area might be going for 250.
Yeah.
And you sitting on $100,000 worth of equity. Why
Yep.
would I not want to do that?
If you don't have a plan, if you don't have
The plan is
experience,
to go buy more houses.
right? But what I mean is, okay, where are you going to buy those houses? I'm talking the nitty gritty of that plan.
Okay.
What is the price point? If you're just pulling out equity to pull out equity, number one, your mortgage payment is about to go up,
Mm-hmm.
or you're going to have another mortgage payment. And then let's just say you get sick. You buy a house, you come down, with something and you get sick. I mean, sick where you're on a respirator.
Yeah.
How are you going to execute?
Okay.
You don't want to play with your primary residence. And this is just coming from somebody with 18 years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
If you get sick, how are you going to go to work? How are you going to make that mortgage payment? So when I say, do you have a plan? Like, okay, do you have mortgage insurance? Okay, do you have unemployment insurance if you're self-employed? Like, if you got to look at things like worst case scenario, I pull this 100 grand out, worst case scenario, what happens? So what's the plan? You got to look at it from the worst and the best, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants the best, but nobody really thinks about the worst. And I lived through that, with my parents. My mom got sick, and within 6-8 months she passed away. Unexpectedly my dad passed at 44. Like,
Wow.
you just never know. And if you're in $100,000 to $200,000 investment deal, and you get sick or something happens or the contractor runs out, what's your next step? What's the contingency plan? So that's where having someone with experience, and I'm not just talking about a real estate agent, I'm talking about somebody that actually is doing what you want to do. If you're trying to buy a property, okay, you need to align yourself with someone who has a track record and can show you HUD-1s, can show you settlement sheets, can show you deals that they've done in the past and executed profitably before you start pulling money out of your primary residence. And that's the thing. If you look at what's happened in our country, and I can say this at 39, I can say I've seen the wealth transfer take place in my adult years. When 2008 crash took place, African American wealth went and dropped a ton. Like, people lost their homes. Prince George's County was top 3 counties in the country to go through the foreclosure crisis.
Yeah.
So all those people that took equity out of their properties. Okay, there's a good movie that explains the banking world, and the person that sent that question about the equity, I think they really need to watch it. It's based on a true story. Like, it was a true story about the housing crash. I'm forgetting the name of it. The guy that played Batman was in it, but it's a good film about the housing crash.
Later. We'll tell David.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'm gonna pull it up in a second.
So, talking about leaving behind a legacy and building generational wealth, do you think that the real estate investments that are made are like the prime way to get that done? Like, one of the key things to building generational wealth and passing on the legacies.
Absolutely. So the movie is The Big Short. The Big Short came out in 2015. It's a book about it as well. So watch that movie and you'll understand why you don't want to pull money out of your primary residence. And understand this too, Kiki, the housing crash of 2008 is totally different than now. We had a lot of subprime loans going on, no doc financing going on back then. So this is going to be different. This is going to be a little different. And I don't know, because I've never experienced that. This new thing is, where you got 3 million people supposedly behind on their mortgage. So, it's in the millions of how many people are behind on their mortgage. I don't know if it's exactly 3 million. But as far as building wealth, I think you have to be diverse when you speak of that, because you can have life insurance. You definitely need to have life insurance. And I'm not talking a $30,000 to $50,000 life insurance policy, $100,000 or better. And you need to have an estate planner to really help you stay organized. And real estate is going to be a part of that. So if it's your primary residence, that's a wealth building vehicle. Investment properties. Also, if I didn't mention the stock market, a portfolio, whether you're investing in an index fund or REIT, but you should definitely be investing money, hopefully every month, every quarter, every year, into the stock market. That's where your money starts making money while you're sleeping, and you can own different pieces of different companies. So real estate, life insurance, stock market, and if you're into precious metals like gold, that's always a smart investment as well, and business in general. But none of that means anything if you don't have a succession plan. Like, your son just had walked in. You may build up this podcast. I know guys that built up podcasts and they getting $3 million contracts for their podcast. So you could build up this enormous media platform, but if you're not showing your son, if you guys aren't showing your daughters, how to run the company, what is all the work for? So you need to leave a blueprint, a business model. You need to have the attorneys in place. So if something unexpectedly happens to you, hey, son, Your mom wanted you to step in and be CEO of this. She's been prepping you for this for the last 10 years. That's why you've been on the show periodically.
Mm-hmm.
Here's her SOP on how she runs things. The accountants are over there. This is what the bills are every month. This is already generating $300,000 a month. All you have to do is come in and manage it. She paid me to manage you, to show you how to get this thing up and running. But I'm only going to be with you for 2 years, until after that, if you don't get it, it's on you. So you want to have those things in place. And if you can't afford it, if someone that you work with closely, like a family member or a close friend, you trust them with your business, that, hey, I want to keep this thing going for my kids. Can you make sure that they run it? Can you make sure that they manage it? And that's the thing. You got to have these conversations early. So if your kids are, 10, you need to start planting those seeds. Mm-hmm. And then you need to put things in place so your fortunes don't fall apart. Okay? They at least last 2-3 generations.
Yeah.
The Damn Shamers got so many questions. I don't even know where to start. So I'm
Come on, Damn Shamers.
Okay. Is this a good time to refi, especially with the changing administration? Let's talk about it.
I think it is. I'm not in the banking world, but this is historical lows as far as interest rates. I think it's like 2-3%. Where are you getting 2-3% at? When has that ever happened? Since ever. So I think it definitely is to lower your mortgage payments is definitely the best time to buy. And you can look at that 2 ways. So I look at that 2 ways. It's a great time to buy if you're looking to get in at a low interest rate, but it's also a bad time to buy because everything's overpriced. So you have to think about this for a second. And I want people to understand this. I've had some very serious conversations with real estate agents in my market, and they see things firsthand because they're selling these properties to new homeowners. And there was just a really good article on MSNBC about this young lady. She makes $95,000 a year, and she bought this house for $295,000, and she's living an American dream. But one of my good friends, he posted this on Facebook, and he was like, this scenario, I didn't get deep into the article, but this scenario is going to eventually lead us into a housing crash. And I want to piggyback on that for a second. Okay, this is a single young lady with an income of $95,000. She bought a $295,000 house. Now, if the data shows what I'm hearing in the streets from licensed real estate agents that are selling people $400,000-$500,000 houses, because if you get a $400,000 or $500,000 house right now, your mortgage payment is going to be below $3,500. Okay, but they're telling me like these people buying these homes have $5,000 in the bank account, and they're living paycheck to paycheck. So if someone buys, if you buy a $300,000 house and you make $95,000 a year, if you are spending more than you're saving and something happens to that industry and jobs are lost, how are you going to pay your mortgage? This is what I tell people though. If you're going to buy a house in this market, you're going to take advantage of these low interest rates. When the market does crash, if it happens, don't get all emotional and get upset when the house next door sells for, let's just say it's a $350,000 neighborhood. The house next door now sells for $180,000. You knew who lived there. You know the house didn't need a bunch of work, and your new neighbors paid $180,000. You have to understand this. In 2008, when the housing market crashed, it took about 4 to 5 years for the market to recover. And if you know values, and you all need to do your research before entering the market, look at what the values were in most cities and counties across the country compared to today. So understand, we always come back out on top. Mm-hmm. So if you can afford to make your mortgage payments, weather that storm, okay, that's gonna come eventually. Weather the storm, because on the other side, your properties are gonna appreciate more than what they were when you purchased them. Okay? I own a property in the neighborhood. I own a property in the neighborhood. I'm going to give this example. In 2008, the values went all the way down from 250 renovated homes. Okay? There were properties selling in that neighborhood between $90 and $130,000. Okay? You could 90 to 130,000. That neighborhood now in 2020, mind you, in 2007, 250 was the top number. 460 now.
Wow.
So, and this is Baltimore City. So understand this. I don't know. There's so many conspiracy theories about COVID. You see people rushing to the suburbs, rural areas. You see this, right? I'm an open-minded type of guy, right? So I'm thinking like, I see all these people rushing out of the cities. Like you hear in New York, people rushing out, right?
Yep.
Baltimore. You look at DC. I'm not hearing really people talking about moving out of DC. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard it. Gentrification is happening all over the country.
Yeah.
Baltimore, in my eyes, is 15 to 20 years behind Washington, D.C. And the same with Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a bigger city, but the housing stock is very similar to Baltimore. Philadelphia is going through gentrification like no other. I invested in Philadelphia back in 2010, and I saw this with my own eyes. Everybody talked about Temple University, buy properties over there, right? So I look at Philly and I look at Baltimore. Baltimore is going through some of the same changes. So you can, when I say, like, if you live out in the county, you need to be buying in the city. Keep your homes in the county, but own your old grandmother's house. Go back and buy that property, your uncle's house. Go back to the hood and start buying these properties, because eventually there's going to be a population increase in the inner cities across the country. It may not be for 20 years, but you're talking about generational wealth. If you buy a house for 5-10 grand right now and it's worth 500,000 in 20 years, that was a great investment now that you passed down to your family member, your son, your daughter, your cousin, your niece, nephew, grandchild. So look at Baltimore. The first signs of gentrification from my lens is that they focus on the schools. So, you know, I voted. I'm pretty sure all of you voted. If you looked at that ballot, they talked about legalizing gambling, sports betting. And they were going to take that money and they were going to invest that money into the schools. Yes, they're going to invest the money into the schools. But who are they investing into the schools for? These neighborhoods are 60 to 80% vacant in the hood.
Yeah.
So this is for the new population that they know is coming. Johns Hopkins spearheaded and this is all over the country. If you look at like the big institutions, if they're located in inner cities, they're usually spearheading empowerment zones, redevelopment. Johns Hopkins has a multi-billion-dollar redevelopment plan that started in 2007 before the crash in East Baltimore. And they have put a Starbucks in, they've put a hotel in, they've put several small businesses, apartments, new homes that are sold before they even finish construction. And those communities on the outside are starting to be redeveloped. But the first thing that they do is they redevelop the schools, the elementary schools, the middle schools. So when you see that type of infrastructure coming in, far as the streetscape, if they're knocking down properties, just know that things are coming down the pipe. And I did a YouTube video 10 years ago talking about the EBDI, East Baltimore Development Initiative. And case in point, I purchased a property on East Madison Street, Kiki. You know where East Madison is?
I do. I'm very familiar with the whole entire area.
In 2014. So you can for the due diligence folks out there, I purchased a property at 2303 East Madison in 2016, for $5,000. And I waited. I talked about the strategy earlier. I waited for the values to go up. So when I purchased the property, the values were only $137,000. This was in 2016. Today, those houses are selling for $250,000 to $300,000. I'm talking two-story row houses. Okay, yeah. So that I created wealth just by being patient and doing my research on an area.
And you can do
And
this in every area that you're in, not only
all over the
Baltimore,
country,
all over the country. Just do your
all over the
research and
country.
pay attention. Pay attention,
Yes.
like myself said, to where they are putting funding schools and making those projects better and all of that. Producer lady, we had some other questions that.
Yes, we got one, a couple of people that have an interest in the chat about reverse mortgage. And can you speak to that a little bit?
I'm not real familiar. I'm not going to try to answer something I'm not familiar with. I do know a lot of seniors are taking out reverse mortgages.
I don't understand that. Like they yeah.
Hey.
Are the banks targeting the seniors? Because I've never had anybody ask me to do a reverse mortgage.
Oh, not yet, because you don't get AARP yet. So you got to be like 65. You got to be like 65 to qualify, I think, for a reverse mortgage. I'll share what I do know about it. I do not recommend it because it extracts the wealth from your family immediately upon that person's death. However, banks do give you the option to buy back the house. I've heard instances where they even discount what's owed depending on the condition of the property. But you have to think, I always look at what like the wealthy folks are doing, right? And they're not doing reverse mortgages. And a lot of seniors do reverse mortgages for a couple of different reasons. I've seen it all. People get taken advantage of. Our seniors, really, I'm a caretaker, and our seniors get targeted. You got those scammers that call from Africa, and they'll, like one of my neighbors, she did a $300,000 reverse mortgage. She had dementia, and the family doesn't even know where the money is. So you have to protect your seniors, and that comes through estate planning. But with the reverse mortgage, a lot of times the seniors take out these mortgages, but their properties aren't worth what the mortgage is. When the bank, appraises the property, if you get the property appraised, it's not going to be worth what they took out. So they're automatically going underwater. Okay, so it's very rare that a property with a reverse mortgage has equity left in it. So without equity, you can't really do anything.
And
you have to be knowledgeable enough.
I'm sorry, if they do have a little bit of equity, they're giving the seniors that money. So the seniors are like, oh my goodness, I got this money, and baby, where you want to go? You want to go? I'm gonna teach you to a nice meal, and and I'm like, well, what the hell did you do to your house, Ann? What happened?
Absolutely. And this is another thing as far as wealth creation. We're talking about that. And this is key, even myself, if you're in your 40s, you have a good career, you're solid, leaving that burden on your children can be a game changer in many ways, in a negative way, because the average expenses for a senior that needs care can be anywhere from $4,000 a month all the way up to $13,000 a month, depending on the level of care. And there is insurance in place that you can get now if you're in your 40s and 50s and even 60s. The name isn't ringing a bell, but it basically takes care of you if you have to go into assisted living or you need home care while you're home, if you want to stay in your home. But a lot of seniors do reverse mortgages because they need that money to take care of themselves. They need that extra money. And I tell folks, you have to own real estate. So you don't have to bother with your primary. If you need to take out a mortgage on one of your investment properties 20 years from now, you invested so you can have a nest egg later.
Yeah.
You can have that later.
And I've heard you say in some of your other platforms that it doesn't have to be a house. It could be land, something that you
absolutely.
own. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I just talked to
critical.
a family member of a family that owns 700 acres in North Carolina. I talked to them today on Zoom, and it's been in that family since 1676.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, your aunts, your great grandparents that had that land down south, that's valuable. That's some if you're listening to this, you know, you definitely want to learn real estate so you can keep that land in your family. Because that's one thing that they're not making anymore. They're not making land. And people are born every day. So that land will be occupied and in some point. At some point.
Producer lady.
Well, I was about to chime in. So many more questions, but we always like to ask our male co-hosts, you know, our special guests, this question. So we can't let you go, Marcel, without asking you all the questions.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna kick it over.
It would be a damn shame.
Damn shame.
If we let you go and not ask this question. So listen, you have two types of women out there. Two types of women. Mm-hmm. Okay, we have woman A, nightlife. She'll be woman A. Okay, nightlife. She's in trade school, right?
Yeah.
To become a nursing assistant. Okay.
Right.
She has bad credit, you know, a couple of blemishes on her credit, but she loves watching sports. Okay. She keeps a very, very clean apartment for her and her 3 children. She has 2 baby daddies, but they don't give her any drama. No baby daddy drama issue, okay?
She has 3 children?
She has 3 children.
Okay. Uh-huh.
She's a she's in nursing school to become a nursing assistant. Okay. And her kids, the 3 kids, they absolutely love you. But her mom adores you too. That's nightlife. That's woman A, okay?
Okay.
There's 2 types of women.
Uh-huh.
Woman B, Kiki. Woman B, she makes over $150,000 a year. She has good credit, and she is a homeowner. She don't like sports. Kiki don't like sports, okay? Mm-hmm. I do like the Ravens, but we don't like sports for this example. And I'm a boss, so I'm out here. I don't have time to clean up no house or cook or anything like that. Okay, but I do love to travel. I love to travel. I have 1 child. You saw him. But he don't really bang with you like that. He don't like you. He don't like you. He don't like you. But my grandmother absolutely loves you.
Right.
Which woman would you choose? And why?
What? And why? Oh, it be on this. You put me on the spot because I've dated women just like both of A and B. So, I like, as long as that personality, as long as we get along, I could date either one. I've dated women like that in my past. So, and they were all great women.
Okay. So what's a not so great woman?
A not so you really want to know?
Yeah, you told me no topic is off limit to the damn.
Yeah, somebody that's a lazy bum. That just ain't trying to do anything. You know, we trying to build something.
I'm trying to build a legacy.
Absolutely.
I get it. So you
and that's vice versa for women. For women, like they don't want to.
I don't need no
I see it with my own eyes in the real estate world. Like these women that are buying these houses, they don't bring baggage with them.
Yeah.
They don't. They're buying these houses on their own, and they're not bringing the straggler.
You either got to shit or get off the pot. Like it's one or the other. And
Absolutely.
It's damn judgment companies. Because I did try my a little stint at real estate and becoming a landlord, and I said this shit is not for me. Like begging grown people to pay their damn rent, like So I said, well, if I do put my hand in the pot again, I'm definitely going to get a more one of those management
Property
companies,
management.
the property management company.
Right. I think once you, everybody has their own comfort level and stomach. Being a landlord, you have to have a stomach to deal with the general public. Like if you're the type of person that you're not a people person and you're not easy to get along with. I mean, you, right? So, I recommend hiring a property manager. But if you can, uh, if you are a people person and you like building relationships, you got to understand this. No one's going to take care of your property like you. Okay. No one's going to manage your property like you. So you have to, this isn't like a stock. You can buy Apple stock today for $120 and you can leave it alone. You don't have to go to Apple headquarters. You don't have to go to the Apple store. Your money's going to grow. It's going to go up and down, but it's going to grow at the end of the day. However, when you own a property, you now own a hard asset. Okay. This is something that you can touch, feel, and see and smell, whatever. You have to go and manage that asset. You have to manage the tenant that's in that asset. And then one of the best ways of doing that is number one, giving them a great product, meaning you're giving them a house that you would live in.
Yeah.
Okay. Number two, you treat them like a human being and not like a paycheck. And number three, you're present, not every day, but showing up once a month. This is an investment. This is an investment worth hundreds of thousands of dollars that you have insured. You need to go see your investment. You need to have that open line of communication with your tenant. And you create the culture. And what ends up happening when you all first start out, and I tell my clients all the time, the only tenants you should be putting in your properties are either Section 8 or someone with a subsidized housing, a subsidy. And if you don't do that, you're running the risk of chasing your rent. And I like a peace of mind. And I want all of my student partners to be successful landlords. And I want them to have peace of mind. You can't be running around chasing rent at 58 years old. You can't be running around chasing rent at 60, So let the government pay you for once, okay? That's what you've been here for, paying your taxes for. Let them pay you, and you build wealth. You run the risk when you want to rent it to somebody else, and when you have that belief that Section 8 tenants are bad. No, you have to understand these housing programs that exist nationwide. They're run a lot differently now than what they were how they were run in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s, where they really pay close attention to their clients, and they make sure that their clients are living up to the lease that they signed. So, that's, we talked about myths earlier. That debunks any myths about Section 8. They're not all bad people, or they're not dirty, and the things you hear. I've had several Section 8 clients, and they keep some of the best homes. They keep some of the best homes. And I have clients that have signed 5-year leases with their tenants. So,
So if we had to, because we only have a few more minutes, but if we had to give some additional key parting tips, first you said to make sure that you go Section 8 or some subsidized program to ensure that your money is secured if you're getting into the landlord business. What would be another first step for someone that might want to, that would be an ideal situation for buy and hold, right?
Yes.
First state for a flipper, or one that wants to rehab.
I think the first step is really identify where you want to invest. I tell people all the time to go in your own backyard, where you live, where you grew up, places that you frequent, you're very familiar with. You go into those neighborhoods, see what opportunities exist there. But again, that's a more advanced niche. So definitely seek a expert out, a mentor out, and pay for mentorship. I don't care if it costs 50 grand. If you're going to be in this business for the long haul, for the next 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to make that times 100. You know, the average rehabber in Baltimore right now is making anywhere between 45 and $85,000 per flip. Okay. So you're going to make your money back over time. It alleviates mistakes, pitfalls, roadblocks, and also it shortens your learning curve. So pay for the education, just like you did when you went to college. If you went to college, if you started a job, understand you don't always start out making what you want to make. So you have to start somewhere. And that's if you can afford it. If you can't, you know, you need to really get on your grind. You need to really start, you know, shadowing people that are willing. You know, it's going to take, you might have to go through 100 people before you find someone to shadow. Like the guy I did in DC, I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. But the only reason I was at the right place at the right time is because I put myself in that position. If I hadn't ever gotten started with the network marketing business, which was like $500 at the time, I would have never met this $1 million real estate guy, right? So you have to invest in yourself. The biggest investment, you know, it's not the houses, it's you.
Yeah.
You have to make the investment in yourself before you reach any level of success in life. And that's, you invested time into this podcast, Kiki. If you want to invest it in any time and money, you all of you invested time and money. If you guys didn't do that, I wouldn't even be on this show.
That's it. That's it. And that
Nobody gave you that. Nobody gave you this.
No.
Right? You just created a write-off on your taxes because it's a home-based business.
Absolutely.
So we have to change our mindset. Before anybody on this, watching this recording or on this live gets involved in real estate, you have to change your mindset. And that takes time. So you mentioned Failing Forward. That's a book by John C. Maxwell. If you're not a reader, you can watch. There's a guy on online, Les Brown. Follow Les Brown. Guys like Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, E.T., Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher. You know, watch their videos every day. Really immerse yourself, because there's a difference between an employee mentality and an entrepreneurial mentality, an investing mentality. I'm talking consumer mentality versus investing. So you really have to, you know, dig deep. There's going to be some soul searching, because some of you watching this have been in the workforce for 20, 30, 40 years, and you have a one-track mind. This is a new world. So you have to evolve and you have to grow. And that's the first thing. You have to be ready mentally for defeat, because it's going to happen. You know, every 2 weeks you get paid that $3,600 check or whatever. But in this world, there's no guarantee that check's coming. So you have to be mentally and financially ready to take on that type of defeat if it happens. And the only way that can you can withstand those types of losses is if you're mentally strong. So entrepreneurship isn't for everybody, Kiki. Everybody can do it, but it isn't for everybody. Everybody can do it. And when I say everybody can do it, everybody can become better.
Yeah.
We all have gifts. We all have a gift. We all have gifts. But you have to be willing to put the work in. If you're not willing to put the work in, this ain't for you.
Yeah. And don't let your mind get in the way of progressing.
Absolutely.
To step out there. Absolutely. I mean, you know, who would have thought that I would be sitting here talking to many people around across the United States. And so it just started because of COVID. Like, all right, let's get on here, you know, and it has blossomed. I've been very happy, and I know that you see the fruits of your labor, and so many of the Damn Shamers also, because we got some bosses out there and then making things happen, and we just cannot allow ourselves to get in our heads and say, oh no, this ain't gonna work. Because guess what? It will work. It will work if we change the mindset. So each week we like to spotlight Black-owned businesses here on Damn Shame Podcast. Can you tell us more about REI Inner Circle?
Okay, so REIinnercircle.com. That's my educational portal where folks go and You can watch a quick video where I give you a real estate investing tip, and then you can apply for mentorship, coaching, or consulting, just filling out an application. You have to qualify, and what ends up happening is it goes to my team. We evaluate all applications, and then my team picks and chooses who qualifies for a complimentary coaching call with me. And I end up doing a 30-minute, consulting call with you. I give you a game plan and roadmap, and we do a follow-up. I give you an assignment, and we do a follow-up. So you can go to reiinnercircle.com. And if you don't qualify, don't worry about it. You can always come back and reapply when things get better. It is based off like your credit and your current income, how much you can invest. We're talking about real estate. So I'm looking to partner with people that are ready and able to move in this market, in this marketplace. But if you don't yet have enough capital and your credit's not as up to par as it should be, understand there's certain things that you can get done and that you can put in place. Definitely explore credit repair. Just a quick tip on credit repair: if your credit's like in the fives, or the sixes, get a secured credit card, and then start opening other credit lines, and eventually your credit's gonna repair itself, and start writing letters and getting things taken off your credit report. As far as investing, you need money to invest. I needed money to invest in real estate. I took my refund check, and instead of consuming it, I saved it, and I looked for the right opportunity. I educated myself. So, you can take the long way. You can if it takes you two years to buy your first house, it was worth the time investment, right? But you have to educate yourself, immerse yourself in information on a daily basis. If you don't have someone like myself that's going to give you the roadmap or the blueprint, you still can seek out this information. But if you want to shorten that learning curve, you definitely want some mentorship. I have a resource for the folks that don't qualify, that don't get that email or that text saying, hey, you qualified for the coaching call. You can go to marcelumphrey.com. That's MarcelUmphery.com. I have over 80 articles, and I'm always uploading new articles and videos to that site. There are a ton of videos from past seminars that you can watch. It's just a hub of information. So, jumping on sites like that and other sites across the internet on real estate investing is a great place to start. But MarcelUmphrey.com, REIinnercircle.com, and follow me on Instagram at Marcel_Umphrey. I do videos at least 4 to 5 times a week. I go live, and I share on platforms like Kiki and Nightlife and your team at Damn Shame. This has been an amazing experience for myself. I had to pivot. I'm a live event in your face type of guy. I've done hundreds of seminars up and down the East Coast, and now COVID hit, and I have to go digital. And I love the personal and the live interaction, but God said COVID, and it's time to grow. So whenever we get hit with anything that puts us from continuing to progress, that means it's time to grow. And I believe it was a godsend for this to happen, even though we lost precious souls, and God bless those folks that we lost to COVID. I'm pretty sure a lot of people were affected. But at the same time, we must go on, and we have to have the faith that things are going to get better. So, I look at this as an opportunity for all of us to pivot and to grow. And look what's happening. We're talking to people at 9:45 all over the country right now, all over the world. You probably have people timing into this. Yeah. And it's just an opportunity for all of us to really expand and build wealth. And wealth isn't just in your assets and in your bank account. It's in knowledge. Like it's in, a good friend of mine, she said one day, she said, Marcel, to measure someone's success is to look at their children, how their children turn out. That's true wealth. When your children are doing great as adults, that's true. Your job is done. You've done well. So I guess that's like my ending statement.
And that's key. I mean, we all want our children to do. We started out saying this. We wanted to leave behind that legacy that's stronger than what we had. And so let me tell you, it would be a damn shame. But this has been an amazing ride with you tonight, Marcel. I'm telling you, You have dropped some knowledge, given me a lot to think about, and I'm sure the Damn Shamers as well. You all keep your comments coming. This live will definitely be placed up on YouTube after we do a little editing, and we'll make sure that we get you the key information. Be sure to tune in each and every week to Damn Shame Podcast. We are here on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.